Welcome back to Dirt Obsession, everyone. Today we need to talk about Arctic Cat, and that's not a sentence I expected to be putting together after some of the miscues since 2018 when Textron acquired the brand. Long story short, Arctic Cat wasn't doing very well in the latter part of the 2010s, operating at 8-figure losses from 2012 to 2017, and Textron, who formerly owned Polaris in the 60s, was probably having some post-separation envy watching Polaris prosper into a multi-billion-dollar company after the split. So naturally, Textron wanted back in the off-road game, and despite the operating losses, Arctic Cat offered an already established lineup and manufacturing network. I didn't like some of the decisions Textron had made early on, especially partnering with Bass Pro Shops to sell Arctic Cats as store-branded tracker ATVs. They also reduced their dealer network and reduced their ATV lineups, so it definitely appeared that Arctic Cat was slowly sinking into irrelevance in the ATV market for a while there. Hopefully all of that is turning around this year as Textron has increased the package options and additions of their flagship Arctic Cat Alterra 600 ATVs. For today's video, let's take a look at the packages and models for the Alterra 600, but I want to hear your thoughts on whether you think the lineup is strong enough to spark a comeback, or is it too little too late for Arctic Cat? Let us know in the comments. The Alterra 600 EPS wasn't getting too many folks excited last year because it seemed like a step back from the previous TRV 700, which was a big single that put Arctic Cat in a class with Yamaha's Grizzly 700 and Suzuki's King Quad 750. It lacked flair and it didn't offer a locking front differential, not to mention the reduced dealer network made them hard to find, so they seemed to be fairly doomed. This year, though, Arctic Cat looks to be doubling down on a comeback effort, addressing some customer complaints, at least in some of their models, and offering package options that actually add meaningful capability over the base model 600 EPS. First up, let's take a look at the base model Alterra 600 EPS, and as I've said before, I like seeing base model options which help keep the price in check for consumers. In 2023, the base EPS price jumps to $9,199, which is right in line with a similarly spec Sportsman 570 EPS. The 600 class single-cylinder engine puts out 45 horsepower, which competes directly with the 570 class Sportsman and Outlander, and is 5 horsepower more than a C-Force 600. The engine and chassis were new from the ground up in 2022, and the Alterra features impressive ground clearance at 11.3 inches despite having 25-inch tires, and a small but protective front bumper comes standard. Heat is a common complaint from modern ATV owners these days, and Arctic Cat is attempting to limit heat impacts to the rider by engine orientation that puts the exhaust header at the rear of the machine, which should certainly help with minimizing heat. However, a lot of enthusiasts did take note of the lack of a locking front differential on the EPS model, but that feature is available on the LTD and SE models. The Alterra 600 XT adds a premium color option and more protective front bumper over the base model EPS at $9,899, but again lacks the locking front differential. The base model and XT 600s would definitely benefit from adding the locking front diff, which would help separate them apart from the competition, especially at their similar price points. Things start getting a little more serious with the Alterra 600 LTD, which adds the front differential lock to the four-wheel drive system and 27-inch Duro Power Grip tires on nice-looking aluminum wheels with a 3,500-pound worn winch and over-molded rack protectors to the steel racks, all for $10,499. You can upgrade to the SE model, which keeps all the features and adds the rack extenders and color matches the front bumper for $10,999. With these models and prices, it's pretty clear that the folks at Arctic Cat have set their sights on taking a bite from the Sportsman 570 lineup. So it's notable that Arctic Cat also offers the same Duro Power Grip tires as Polaris has on their premium models, as well as an optional dash-mounted Garmin Tread GPS to compete with the Ride Command option from Polaris. The Sportsman EPS models have selectable EPS settings and handlebar-mounted headlight pods, but Polaris all-wheel drive is certainly not the same as true four-wheel drive with differential lock, so that feature may contribute to the deciding difference for some folks. I got a chance to check out the Alterra 600s firsthand at MLS Power Sports in Georgetown, Kentucky. My first impressions was that the new Alterra 600 is light years ahead of the older Alterra 570s that I wasn't a huge fan of. Build quality is obviously improved, and the engine orientation is unique, and it was clearly developed to be an ATV engine. Intakes are mounted high at the front of the machine, and the gas tank is mounted in front of and below the engine, which should keep weight distribution centered and even. The CVT is offset at the rear of the machine, but still parallel to the engine orientation, which makes it more accessible than the competition. The front storage compartment is a nice and convenient addition, and with the engine orientation, it shouldn't be the hot oven that the similar storage area is on the Grizzly 700. Fuel capacity is also pretty impressive at 5.7 gallons, which is about a gallon more than most of the competition, and there's also 2-up TRV options. We're not huge fans of 2-up ATVs, but I know some folks prefer the 2-up chassis for bringing a passenger and having more hill climbing stability. Arctic Cat didn't stop there though. The most exciting offerings this year, albeit a little pricier, are the new Alterra 600 Black Hills Edition and the Alterra 600 MudPro. They're the same basic platforms, but each has features that make them purpose-built for specific riding styles. The Black Hills edition of the Alterra 600 takes all the features of the SE model and turns the dial up to 11, with 28-inch tires that increase ground clearance to 12.8 inches. High clearance arms also make a contribution to usable ground clearance, and an all-new lower gear ratio in the transaxle. Gearing is reduced by 14% in low gears to increase crawling and climbing capabilities. I really like the adjustable handlebar risers combined with the wide bars and slope grips for slow speed control. I like the look of this machine, and I think it would be great for folks who are routinely tackling very rocky and rough terrain, even though I'm not a fan of such tall tires for more spirited riding. The tires and gear reduction are also certain to have an impact on top-end speed, which may be a consideration depending on how and where you like to ride. As purpose-built machines go, the Black Hills Edition is pretty unique to the market by taking certain features other manufacturers hold exclusively for mud machines, like the high clearance arms and lower gearing, to build a machine more focused on technical terrain. The only complaint I had about the Black Hills Edition is that the gauges are impossible to read past the handlebar risers from the seated position. This isn't an issue on the other models, and I like the risers and bars that come on both the Black Hills Edition and the MudPro enough that I would probably learn to deal with the fact that I'd have to stand up to see the machine's information. The MudPro name that was formerly available on the 700 platform from Arctic Cat but was dropped after the acquisition makes a return in the Alterra 600 MudPro. The MudPro shares the Black Hills Edition gearing and adds a relocated radiator with snorkels for the CVT and airbox intake. It swaps the tires for 28-inch Maxxis Zillas, which are an inch taller than the ones on the Grizzly XTR. The bumper comes up over the hood to offer protection around the relocated radiator, but it's narrower at the bottom, which leaves a little more plastic exposed to the mud than I'd like to see. But in fairness, so does the Outlander 570 XMR. Still, mud enthusiasts can get onto a purpose-built machine with EPS and locking front diff for $11,599. The challenge for the MudPro is certainly going to be the considerably less expensive Outlander MR at $8,299 and the XMR 570 with the upgraded Visco lock at $9,799. Neither of the Outlanders have power steering or a winch at those prices though. So getting back to the Arctic Cat comeback, I think the Alterra's price point is going to be a challenge in their return to relevance. They're priced right in line to offer reasonable alternatives to folks considering the more established Sportsman 570, but the Outlander 570 DPS and 570 Max DPS offer better value and more power in their class, even in comparable trims. They also have a similarly spec'd and increasingly popular CF Moto C4 600 to contend with, and that's sure to be priced significantly less once the 2023 prices are released. Overall, as an ATV enthusiast, I think it's exciting to see Arctic Cat put some focus on marketing their ATVs. A lot of enthusiasts will be shouting about a big twin, but the 600cc machine is a calculated move by Textron entering into the highest selling displacement segment of ATVs. 500 to 600cc ATV sales are up significantly over the last year, which I attribute solely to my side-by-side suck video. But Arctic Cat's dealer network and inventory has also improved over the last year. We're seeing more Alterras in stores and on the trails. Time will tell if enough momentum is gathered for Textron to offer more displacement variety, but at a time when new machines are few and far between, it's nice to see that Textron didn't just give up on ATVs. If you're in the central Kentucky area, check out MLSPowersports.com for in-stock Arctic Cat, Suzuki, and Kawasaki ATVs. We bought a few machines from them recently, and their upfront pricing and easy buying experience was great. So what do you think about the new additions in the Alterra 600 lineup? And do you think ArcticCAD is making a comeback, or is it too little too late? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time right here on Dirt Obsession.